Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. We're back with another fans forum, and joining me, hello, stranger, Kevin. How are
I'm
you
back.
doing? We were just saying backstage how pleased you were to be back talking all things Aston Villa.
This is my happy place. This is my safe space, as people say these days. So yeah, I'm delighted to be back, Richard. Delighted to be back. Yes, and I'll try not to be away for so long next time.
No, we will. We're glad to have you back, and we were just saying it's going to be regular pods again because we know football is back now. We've had this international football jazz. We will talk a little bit of international football, obviously, but we're back with proper football. Pre-season starts tomorrow night for Villa. We've got transfers in full flow, so we're going to be covering that because, yeah, the Villa are all over the news at the moment with transfers. So we're going to get all your opinions on Musa Diaby, Amadou Onana, Nico Williams, potentially, potentially, and everything else in between. So yeah, get your comments in. Hit that like button as well, people. Hit that subscribe button. We've actually gone past 4,300 subscribers. We're on X and on YouTube tonight. So like, subscribe, get your comments in, and follow us at Villa Park Pod as well. Let's keep growing the channel. Let's keep growing as well as we keep pushing on to 5K. So Kev, let's start Musa Diaby because the news came through, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half ago, that Al Ittihad this time had, uh, I think it was Al Nasser last season, were interested in him. We obviously signed him. He chose to come to Aston Villa around about a 50 million deal, I think. I'm not sure if that was the full fee, but Al Ittihad now really were interested, and now it's transpired that they are really pushing to sign him. Apparently, he's open to the deal. Who wouldn't be when you're offered the wages that are reportedly being offered? Aston Villa are looking for a certain price. We commented on it last week, myself and George. It'd be good to get your views on it. How do you feel about the kind of whole transfer? Are you looking at thinking, well, look, it was a good season for him last season, if a little bit mixed, good in terms of statistics. Second season now for Musa Diaby, could he kick on with the Champions League as well? Or are you thinking, do you know what? If we're offered a reasonable sum of money, can make a good profit on him, reinvest it elsewhere and say, thanks, but we're going to move on to bigger and better things potentially?
Well, the thing I would say about Musa Diaby is as follows. Um, there are many people saying, look at Leon Bailey, first season, first couple of seasons, it took a bit of time to get used to the Premier League. And obviously now he's been, fantastic over the last season, Leon. Now, for every Leon Bailey that isn't great, but then turns out to be brilliant, there's probably about 25 other players that you think, oh, I had a slow start that don't ever get any better. So, from my perspective, like we believe Diaby, I think in a wishful thinking kind of way, would come good. But if this was a link to a Martinez or a Watkins or a Leon Bailey or a John McGinn going now, I think the Villa fans would be up in arms. The fact that there's not many Villa fans saying we cannot sell Diaby, I think says all you need to know. And not many are saying it. Some are saying, "Wow, he'll come good," but I think a lot of Villa fans realise if you make a bit of profit on him, he hasn't. He wasn't unbelievably impressive. I think he obviously stats were decent, but I would say I think a lot of players in this Villa team under Unai Emery, you're at the top end of the league now. You're scoring more goals, you're creating more chances, so therefore you are going to score and assist more goals in that team. Look at the numbers of everybody from a Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, Leon Bailey, etc., etc. So I look at it as very much the latter for me. I think if you can make, I don't know, do a 70 million deal, reinvest that money. I mean, I think if you look at it, if it's going to end up being Philogene and probably Onana, get his name right, Amadou Onana. It's not even my name, mate. Where's that accent
Yeah,
come
that
from,
was
by the way?
brilliant. That was
That's
brilliant.
brilliant. Yeah, it was. He's brilliant. Apparently, he speaks five languages, but we'll come on to him. If you can get Philogene and Amadou Onana for probably cheaper than you sell Diaby for, I think that's pretty good business. Now, there's a big question about whether we need better than Philogene to replace Diaby, and I'm sure we can talk about that obviously
Mm.
shortly. But I think from a business perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense depending on who, if anyone else, we bring in. The other thing I'll say finally on it is this: we have to think about next season as well, PSR, and obviously if we can do something we weren't planning on doing, which it gets us ahead of the game, so to speak, in terms of PSR, then maybe it's a good idea to do it now rather than chasing your tail next at the end of next season and maybe having to sell one of the big hitters, which is obviously what we don't want to do.
Well, that was my next question with regards to that. So yeah, you've ahead of the game and kind of answered it straight away. But yeah, I was thinking, is this actually linked into the profit and sustainability process for next season, moving into that accountancy period for next season? Are they thinking a little bit more longer term? We know we might be selling John Duran as well for pretty decent money. So are they looking at it in that sense of, okay, that gives us much more wriggle room, so to speak, to bring in additional players should Unai Emery need to? Also thinking of, he's got probably targets that he wants to get in now, but what would happen in January? We know we added maybe one player in January, was it? Morgan Rogers, this what time round? And look how depleted we were towards the end of the season. Now, does that allow you to make one or two signings now and then potentially go to two or three reinforcements should you need them in January, depending on where we are in the league? Because then it's not risking that profit and sustainability situation later on down the line.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if you look at also what we've done this frenzied transfer window so far, I mean, Villa have been absolutely the key players, haven't they, in terms of the Premier League? A lot of jealous rival clubs, even looking at some of the savvy business deals we've been doing. But there's been no superstars, has there? You know, for a team that have just qualified for the Champions League, you look obviously what Newcastle did getting in Tonali, you know, big money international player touted across Europe. We've signed Ross Barkley, very shrewd deal.
Hmm.
You know, Dobbin for Irobanum, see what happens there. Highly rated, but I don't know how much he'll feature. Maybe I'll be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised with Unai if he ends up playing a key part. Obviously, there's been the Kellerman deal going out. You know, we've obviously got me and Matson coming back in. So there's, I mean, I'm really excited about that one. But there's been no, you know, the Goncalves, Alex Buena, Nico Williams, some of these superstar links of a team that have just qualified for the Champions League and want to prove they want to kick on and set a bit of a mark and put a bit of a message out there. So I wouldn't be surprised at the reason why we're selling the Durans of the world, the Diabys of the world, players that really, if you look at the team, with everyone fit, with Ramsey back fit, with Buendia back fit, actually, how much would Diaby feature?
Hmm.
Really? I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't play, but I don't think he'd play anywhere near as much as he played last season. If you've got Jacob Ramsey, Morgan Rogers, Philogene, Leon Bailey, Emi Buendia, John McGinn playing in those sort of attacking areas, Yuri Tielemans, depending on what system you're playing. You've also got Illing Jr. that can play wide. So obviously normally on a different side, but you get my point. There's a lot of options there for Aston Villa, and that maybe means that you can jettison possibly a Diaby and a Duran. The Villa fans are just worried, obviously, that are we going to be able to replace with some sort of high caliber, high quality replacement? But I'm positive.
Yeah, I would suggest Monchi. All things suggest that Monchi and Unai Emery and Vidagani will have already done due diligence in terms of who who they can bring in and what targets they're looking to bring in and how this player can be replaced. And I've got a sort of mini theory as well that I want to run by you in a second, but I just want to come to some comments as well that have come in. So Brock says if they want to pay 70 million for Diaby, let him go. Otherwise, I think he has much more to give. Michael said, considering the amount of fans that say Diaby had a poor season, how can we expect someone to offer 70 million if he was that bad? Yeah, fair point. I guess fair point. And that's the risk you take. But every player's got a price. So if his price is that amount of money, and we've got and some other manager thinks they can get something out of him, and he's going to bring kudos and glamour to the Saudi league, then they potentially will pay that money. Frank said Diaby scored 6 times in how many games? Poor or average at best. Rachel said Diaby, I think, has potential and did score an assist, but it wasn't prolific. We will need to find a way to find goals and assists, but we can do it. Duncan says it stands our first 11 is weaker than last season. Signings now needed for the Champions League season. Frank says, sorry, but Diaby was average at best and lightweight, and to me looked uninterested. I'll be happy to see him go. Dunk said losing Luis and Diaby's one window is very disappointed. Need to make 2 or 3 big signings now. And Credo said Diaby has a very strong competition in his position at Villa, something that you said, more saleable than most. And yeah, so Gary said on X says it'd be a shame if Diaby leaves, but if he wants to go at least, then at least we'll get decent money for him. And David said Diaby flattered to deceive a lot. So my kind of thought process as well is if you look at the, we'll come to a couple of the players that Emery signed or is signing. If you look at the profile of some of these players, Ross Barkley, Amadou Onana, obviously Morgan Rogers signed in January, Sam Illing Jr., Berenachea, quite the profile of them is a little bit more tall, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical. Is he seeing like Moussa Diaby is maybe more of a saleable asset in terms of just not quite fitting into the physicality of the Premier League? And maybe I know he's bringing in Philogene as a possibly looking like an understudy to Leon Bailey, like an option across there. Joao Felix might be someone who he brings in who's a bit more of that kind of slight, quick thinking, quick passing. But littered around that is a more physically strong, tall, gets about the pitch much faster. Maybe he's seen that, we need to bring in more players that fit that profile, and maybe we can afford to lose some of the players that don't quite fit into that profile. And does Moussa Diaby maybe fit into that? He's not going to quite adapt to the physicality that Unai Emery maybe wants to move Villa in that direction.
I think Unai Monchi been listening to some of our podcasts, mate, from going back a year, because if there's one thing that's happened over the last year, other than horrendous weather in the UK ongoing, has been you and I saying we are crying out for some physicality in this team, crying out for it. We need it desperately. I mean, even the Diaby Philogene swap, ability-wise, Philogene obviously has got a lot more to prove than Diaby at the top level, but Diaby 5'7", Philogene 5'11". Douglas Luiz, how tall's Douglas Luiz? 5'10", maybe 5'11", something like that. Onana, 6'4". You've got obviously Barkley, 6'1". Ealing Jr. is tall. So you've got a situation here where you're starting to get a bit more physical. Second worst defensive record, Villa, didn't they, last season from set pieces, I think. Without Mings in the team, we don't know when Mings is going to be back. And, if you've got Konza and Carlos, even as your probably most physical centre half, still not winning loads of headers, having a Barkley, having an Ealing Jr., having an Onana in the box, both defensively and offensively, makes a massive difference. And this is a physical league. I think that's the one area where we got caught out sometimes. I mean, if you look at some games, like the Man City game, by the way, I know Rodri wasn't playing, which is the key thing we have to remember, right? When we absolutely smashed them. But it was the smaller, energetic midfield that won that night, wasn't it? The McGinn, Tielemans, Louise, we were just all over the place. You put Rodri in that team, I think it's a different game there from the physicality perspective. You put Onana against him, then potentially there's a bit of neutralization there. So I think that's something they've spotted as been a
Not
weakness.
just that though, Kev. Like you've said it about the set pieces. I mean, sometimes the panic that used to set in with any defensive set piece against us,
Yeah.
even with Martinez in goal as well. Like, Martinez is world's best goalkeeper, but some occasions on set pieces, you kind of wanted him to be a little bit more dominant. And when it's only Ezri Konsa being your main man in that central defensive area, defending set pieces, and you had, I don't know, 6 foot plus players against John McGinn or Matty Cash or someone like it.
Well, even your
It was
fullbacks, mate.
such a mismatch.
You got Moreno or Dino or Cash on the other side. Even your fullbacks, you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Imagine you had a back four of, I don't know, Konza, Torres, Illing Jr., I don't know, Matson, whatever. You've got a bit more physicality there, particularly if you're playing Konza right back and Mings is in there. So it makes a massive difference. I think it's something they've spotted. I think it's something they've wanted to do, and I think this fits the profile. The interesting thing is this, though. If the Gallagher rumours were true that we really went half a Gallagher, then that suggests we were happy to get a smaller midfielder first, and then we've gone for Onana second. But unless Onana was always an option and Gallagher was a smokescreen, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. You just never know. I mean, the way that I'll speak, if anyone gets a chance, listen or watch the podcast last night that I did with Mike from Blue Boys Network, and I mean, he was quite similar in his description of Onana as I was with Douglas Luiz in terms of really good player. You can tell there's a great player in there, but sometimes flatter to deceive. Although I think Luiz performed better than maybe he maybe thought Onana did, but I can certainly see where he will bring a huge difference to in profile to someone like Douglas Luiz. But yeah, it was interesting to kind of see to hear his comparison. But yeah, I mean, I just think I just think he will add another dimension. And like you said, in terms of that physicality, it's something that we've been saying is so has been so much missing from us, and not just the set pieces, but certain games that we've played as well where I think of Nottingham Forest last season away from home. I think of, you know, other games where we've played like West Ham, teams like West Ham, Crystal Palace. I know it was pretty much season over and we weren't bothered, but you come up against them in a different time of the season, you're gonna get absolutely overran. And that's where I think having those different profiles, if you look at now, the midfield setup is as it stands at the moment, could be McGinn, Tielemans, Onana, Barkley, Kamara when he's back fit, Berenache if he challenges for first team options.
I think
You've
he's
got
over 6 foot as
Buendia,
well,
you've
isn't
got
he?
Ramsey, yeah. So you've got loads of different options in there that can operate to different types of game.
Yeah. Well, I
Whereas
also
I
think
think last season we didn't necessarily have that too much.
no, we didn't. And I think the other thing is this: if you think about like for all of the last season, we didn't have Buendia, and for a large amount of last season, we didn't have Jacob Ramsey. If we're not selling either of those two, then they're two offensive players that are going to come back into the first team squad. There has to be room somewhere else, and that's maybe where.
Mm,
If the thing I would say is this, and this gives me a bit of confidence, but if you're not producing the goods, i.e., if Diaby's not at the levels that we need to be as a Champions League team now, I'm not saying he's not had a decent season. It's easy to write people off. I get all those points, absolutely, but is he at the levels of would he be starting for a Spurs or a Man United? To be fair, with Sancho and Anthony, probably would, but you get my point, right? And otherwise, you're gonna have to do something with Buendia and Ramsey, aren't you? So
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an interesting time. I just hope there's a wow signing coming, basically.
yeah. No, I get you, and we'll talk that in a second. Point that I was going to make about Anana, and you mentioned about Gallagher, is the smokescreen type of thing. Is the speed at which that news story came out about us signing Onana makes me think that they were doing that deal in the background, because
Yeah.
he was talked about being wanted by Arsenal and being wanted by Man United. Maybe even like Barcelona was talked about there, and then all of a sudden, and then we're in the conversation with Conor Gallagher, and then it's like, oh, Conor Gallagher doesn't quite fancy Aston Villa, and all of a sudden we've signed Amadou Onana, and done the deal. So that's where you're thinking like that just wouldn't have come out of the blue like that. There's somewhere in the mix where they've tried to make sure that other clubs maybe weren't as alert to potentially how far along the negotiations we had been. But talking about him, I mean, how excited are you in terms of him coming in? It's looking like he's going to get a medical when he comes back from holiday. Maybe probably joins with the squad ready for the trip to the US if he's his time away at Belgium and that he's had enough time off. But yeah, how excited are you about this potential signing?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I know that obviously he's had his moments where he's flattered to deceive at times, but I mean, who's sparkled in the Everton team really? I think they obviously had a decent end to the season, didn't they? Yeah, obviously McNeil did pretty well, but Decore has done pretty well. But I think every time I've seen him, I've always been pretty impressed. He's obviously energetic, he's tall, he's physical, gets his foot in. I mean, you've only got to see the comparison of stats around where he clearly isn't as good as Douglas Luiz in some ways, but in terms of the defensive part of the game, he's head and shoulders above Douglas Luiz, literally head and shoulders,
Hmm.
as well as figuratively as well. And of course, we spoke a lot as Villa fans around how Tielemans, as a replacement for Luiz, is fairly similar. So if you've brought in Onana for cheaper than the Luiz deal overall, and you got Tielemans on a free last year, it's pretty good business. It's pretty good business. I think he's exactly what we'll need, and maybe not every game. When Kamara's back fit, maybe you can play a Kamara in there. Just and then play a slightly different configuration in front of him. Maybe Kamara McGinn, Kamara Tielemans. I don't really like McGinn there, but you've got options, haven't you, to do that? But I do think that if you think about Onana playing alongside Kamara, that's a pretty good base, isn't it? Berenche maybe is going to be in there at times. So, yeah, I think it's a really good sign. Physical, strong, young, high sell-on value. I really do think he's profile-wise in this current market. I think it's a bit of a steal, the price we're getting from. I know some people are saying crazy money. I can't believe he's spending it. I'll go back to the little jibe I made at Man United about 3 minutes ago. 155 million was it for Sancho and Anthony? You're getting a 22, nearly 23-year-old international midfielder linked with some massive clubs for what, 45 million?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think in this market it's great. I think if he has a sparkling season with Villa, Villa finish fifth, and he gets PSG coming for him, you get my point. You're selling him for 60, 70 million, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. PJ made a good point, and I think Mike as well made this point yesterday about Onana was playing under Sean Dyche, and he has a specific way of playing. He has a specific role for midfielders, and maybe Onana was a little bit stifled in the way that he wanted to play. Now, Emery has a specific way of playing as well, but you've got to imagine that he will bring on his game even more and expect maybe different things out of him. I can imagine him wanting him to drive with the ball forward, get Villa distance moving forward. I know he's got quite a good longer pass, so maybe looking for Ollie Watkins in those channels and the set pieces. He didn't score too many from set pieces, which I was surprised about, but certainly helping out defensively and being a threat in the more attacking position. So you can imagine him molding his game. And at 22 years of age, he is almost that perfect age for Unai Emery to polish up a rough diamond, so to speak.
I really, really back anything Emery does. Really, I think he could turn in any set of ingredients into a sparkling dinner. For every player we're linked with that we say, well, I'm not sure about them. They're flattered to deceive. Go back just, God, not even 2 years, right? You would have been saying the same things about Douglas Luiz, about Leon Bailey, me definitely, about John McGinn, about Ollie Watkins, about a lot of players in our
Mate,
team
we were
because
saying in January about Morgan Rogers.
Morgan Rogers. I remember the first
We
time I
were
saw
like,
him, I was
why are
like,
we signing this kid for?
"Who's
Why
it?"
do we keep going back to Middlesbrough and offering to pay more money for him? Like,
Yeah,
if he doesn't want to come, just let him do one.
yeah. Let's get Jonathan Rowe from Norwich or Philogene at Hull, isn't he? Why do we sell him? Um, Yeah, I just think you look at the coach. If they've spotted the player as a profile, I mean, has there been any failures from Emery's reign yet in terms of people he's brought in?
I honestly can't say there has been. There's
Moreno
been,
dropped off a
like you
little bit,
say,
didn't he?
you. Do you know what? We've talked about him at the top of the show. You could probably say Musa Diaby is one player that
Mm,
possibly hasn't had the impact or the sparkle that we wanted him to. But even then, he's still come in with goals and assists and decent statistics. It's just like we've talked about before, the physical nature of the Premier League, the physical profile, and that kind of thing hasn't necessarily suited him. But if you're going to sell him for more money than we paid for him, then maybe he has been a success.
yeah, well, is a flop in inverted commas for Aston Villa when he scored 10 goals, was it, in the season?
Yeah, 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 yeah. In all
Numerous assists.
comps, absolutely, absolutely. Frank said, whoever we sell or buy, regardless of a name or not, we have to trust this process. We've been incredibly diligent as it stands. Wonderful forced business may just pay off for us, and that's what I think. That's what I think we've got to understand. And I've said before, we're operating as a proper club now in inverted commas, where our players are worth money. We've been down to the Championship. We've been back up into the Premier League where we've had to spend almost the point of, risking it if we did end up getting relegated. And most of our players weren't worth a huge amount of money. Now we're dealing in this business where even our youth players are worth 19, 20 million. Even players who've gone out on loan and not even featured properly for the first team are worth millions to 1 million to 10 million. This is what a proper club does. You don't carry that too much of that sentimentality. If a player is offered a certain amount of money to then allow you to keep bringing in other players. And as I said to George last week, you're operating on three strands. You've got young players that you bring in and then sell on. You've got those kind of 20 to 24-year-olds that Emery likes to bring in for less money and polish up and sell for bigger money. And then you've got your big name players that will come and go once if the price is right for them. And that's how we're operating now, Kev.
Yeah, it is. And if you've got to look as well with, I'm sure, more business to be done, ins and possibly outs. The outs that are rumoured, Diaby, Duran, I don't think many Villa fans are up in arms about that. But if you look at the balance now in comparison of the team, in terms of, sorry, the players that have come in, the players that have gone out, if Louise is gone, obviously it's looking like Diaby's going to go. And you've brought in Baranchaya, highly rated. Let's see what happens. You bring in Onana, you bring in Barkley, you bring in Matson, Illing Jr. I mean, I think you've got to be pretty excited about that so far. That's without that Duran replacement. I'm sure there will be someone that comes in. You know, obviously there's been links to Bayer and a few others. I'm sure we'll come on to that shortly. And of course, is there going to be that sparkling midfielder? But then, if you were on top of all that to bring in a Joe Felix, a Buena, a Goncalves, then that probably would mean with the squad size that something might need to happen with a Ramsey or a Buendia or someone else in the team because you can't play all of them, can you?
No, exactly. Big thanks to Ken for your £2 super chat, mate. Thank you very much. And if anyone does want to give any super chats to ensure that their comment is read out, then please do. If you want to become a member as well, just click the $sign, follow the instructions, and it's $1.99 to become an official Villa Park Pod follower. And then everything is always free. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got nearly 400 people watching tonight, which is fantastic, both on X and on YouTube. So like, subscribe, and keep your comments flowing into the chat. So you've mentioned a few big names there, Kev, in terms of potential signings. Now today, and it's been again, whether it's rumor, whether it's hyping it up, we've seen a couple of articles saying that Nico Williams is being discussed as a potential for Aston Villa. Now Barcelona, I believe, are really pushing and really want to sign him, but they're struggling very much for money. There's even an argument as to whether he leaves Atletico Bilbao, but Unai Emery, big name manager, Spanish, knows how to get the best out of players. Is Nico Williams an absolute pipe dream in terms of a signing now he's had such a brilliant Euros, or could we potentially pull this transfer off?
Well, I think anything's possible now with Villa, with Unai. And I mean, any player knows what Unai's going to do for their career. So I don't think there'd be any worry from any footballer around the manager. This team have gone from strength to strength, and we've got some unbelievable players. We've got what many people think should be England's main striker as our striker. Best goalie in the world. Martinez has won twice as amount of trophies than games he's lost
Hmm.
as Argentina keeper.
Yeah.
It's lost 2 games, won 4 trophies. Unbelievable. You know, you wouldn't be changing him for anyone. You've got absolutely quality now through that team. So I look at it and think as a proposition, but of course, then he goes and has an absolutely wonderful Euros. And then you've got your Chelsea circling, you've got your Arsenal circling, you've got your Barcelonas. The thing is, Chelsea can't offer him Champions League football. We can. We can. There's the Emery factor, of course, but then he's just won a trophy with Bilbao. Barcelona, I don't know how they managed to do this. So they're the most skint club in the world, apparently, but they've always seemed to sign superstars. Something's going on somewhere, and it's likely it'll go there. But anything's possible, mate. Anything's possible. You know, I like to believe if you met with Monchi and Unai over maybe a bit of paella and some sangria, fix some more stereotypes, Kev, if you can. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
Patatas bravas.
Yeah. Couple of oranges. And and maybe they could sell him anything, mate. Maybe they sell him anything. Some gambas. No, stop it now. Stop it now.
No, it would be fantastic. I don't think it happens. And Gary's in the chat saying about his wages. He's probably got. I don't think he'd be on a huge amount now at Bilbao, but I'm pretty sure he'll be wanting some big wages to move now. So that could be an issue. But then, you've mentioned, Goncalves, that those rumours were around. João Felix is still, and Emery's a huge admirer of him, and maybe that's a loan with an obligation to buy at the end of the season. He would be an interesting signing. And then we still talk about Max Bayer. Maybe it would be a case of two or three of those. I'm not saying second tier as in the quality of player, but second tier in terms of the glamour of the transfer, rather than maybe one huge name that is, you know well known to everyone. I mean, what would you say that could be potentially more of an option? That being said, we have got quite a heavy squad, so you'd probably, if you're bringing in two or three, you're going to have to get rid of another four or five. I know we've seen Callum Chambers go, Siné Salo has left today, Seb Revan has gone. So there are fringe players leaving, but we've still probably got more to get rid of.
Well, if we had a dream as Villa fans, if we really wanted to get where we wanted to get to in terms of kicking on from this position we're in now, I think a lot of Villa fans would say, "What do we need? I think we need a strong right, strong right back. Goes without saying,
Hmm.
a strong centre half. Who knows what's going to happen with Mings? Maybe they think he's back soon, and therefore they're not worried about that. But I think it's an area that we could do with an upgrade on. Does that mean that Diego Carlos, while he's still maybe a bit saleable, is an option to go out? I think we need another wide forward slash second striker as an option if Duran goes. So we need to bring in some players if we really want to kick on. That's going to mean there's going to have to be some more exits, of course. And you're probably right. It might be more likely that rather than bringing in a Frimpong or a Goncalves or a Nico Williams, that you bring in a Max Bayer and maybe someone else who's like obviously well rated but isn't quite that 70, 80 million pound whatever figure you might be looking at.
Yeah,
That's probably more
yeah,
more likely, isn't it?
yeah. And that Bayern has got apparently a buyout clause that might make more sense. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, people talk. Lewis says Dumfries would be great at right back. I wholeheartedly agree. Rachel said she'd love Zubamendi, but can't have him now. CH says Marino from Real Sociedad. So there's lots of players out there. But again, we go back to this. I know maybe people were talking about Onana before, maybe towards the back end of last season, but that came pretty much out of the blue, because I kind of thought he'd go to Arsenal or he'll go, you know, what, a Manchester United or something like that. I didn't think for 1 second. I was more looking at maybe we'd go for Ndidi or something, because of the money situation as well with Villa. So maybe it's going to be someone out of the blue again. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see who we bring in and see what deals we do. And if Diaby moves on for the 65, 70 million fee, then all the best. I think that's good business. Duran moves for 35 million. Again, he could turn out to be an absolute world beat. If we put a sell on clause into that, then great. But that's 100 million that you're bringing in straight away. I mean, you're gonna have some fun with that money, definitely, to get some good players in. So it is going to be an exciting pre-season, regardless, mate.
It is. I think with the deals that have happened so far, I think we're probably a little bit up, aren't we, in terms of cash rather than down? And we've made loads of signings and moved on a lot of fringe players. Douglas Luiz aside, maybe Diaby aside, but depending on who you replace him with. So I think you've got to be quite happy with that. And you've got to expect that we are going to spend some money, spend some money to try and kick on. Whatever happens, I trust the structure of the club. It absolutely, like with everything I've got, I trust it. I think that they've got a plan. No more of this, oh, he's available, or Gerard wants to play with him, so we'll get him in, or whatever. It's no more of this, see what happens, or transfer deadline day. Oh, that'll do. Get him in.
Yeah, I'll
Yep,
just get
Simon
Dendoncker.
Dawkins, Michael
Just get
Bradley,
Yeah,
Dendoncker, Bednarek.
Bednarek. Yeah, bloody hell.
Just get them in,
Yeah.
just get them in, see what happens. I think there's a strategy, there's a plan. They'll probably have multiple options, and right now we're going to market with the best products in town, pretty much, aren't we? As good
Mm.
as it gets from a project perspective. Which teams in the Premier League? Well, we spoke about it, I think, going back about 6 months, but let's just briefly talk about it. Which teams in the Premier League are as attractive as Aston Villa right now? Clearly, Man City, because Guardiola's still there, and if he goes somewhere else, they're absolutely, fly and win all the trophies. Arsenal, clearly goes without saying. Um, Outside of that, Liverpool new manager. Liverpool absolutely a Champions League. And they're a massive club, bigger than Villa, but our Villa with the
Still a
project we've
little
got,
bit of uncertainty around Liverpool,
yeah.
and
Man United got loads of it. Spurs, dropped away last season. Villa right now are probably top two, three propositions in the Premier League and probably in Europe for clubs. So we have to maximise and capitalise on that. We've got Champions League football. We've got Unai Emery. We've got Emi Martinez, Ollie Watkins. We've got
Pau
Adidas
Torres.
sponsorship, Pau Torres. I mean, you can keep saying the players all day long,
Yeah,
can't you?
I
In terms,
know, I know.
it's
It's
just,
just
it's
because I
just
completely forgot about Pau Torres. I think, bloody
well,
hell, what a
shows you
player!
how good Spain
Yeah,
are. He couldn't even get in the squad.
I know, I know, I know. But yeah, no, that's exciting, really exciting, and we're going to talk the pre-season start very, very soon. But I do want to just quickly touch on England because obviously we had such glory last week when Ollie Watkins fired us into the final. But again, ends in disappointment on Sunday night. Gareth Southgate today put his resignation in. I think that was expected from everyone. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Kev, we've said this before, and maybe the Ollie Watkins situation last week, maybe it clouded my judgment a little bit. I gave Southgate a fair bit of credit for going and trying to win the game last week. But ultimately, when it comes down to the big decisions in the big games against the teams that you maybe shouldn't be winning, he ultimately fell short again, and that's the fourth time he fell short. Yes, there's respect for him for coming in and making people like England again and bringing togetherness in the players, but yeah, ultimately it just wasn't good enough, and can't be surprised that he's moved on.
Yeah, look, there's different trains of thought about this, isn't there? There's the ones that think, after Iceland and obviously Allardyce for his one game, great record, Allardyce as England manager, 100% record. There's the people that say, "Wow, my God, he's done what no manager's done." Only you know Alf Ramsey's got us to a final before, so what a fantastic record. But sports about taking your opportunities in situations. And I'm not a prolific person who puts out on social media, particularly outside of X, but I saw a Facebook status I put out about 6 years ago, and the status was, when the dust settles, we'll remember that we didn't go out of the World Cup in the semi-final after being 1-0 up to Spain, Brazil, France, Germany, Portugal. We went out to Croatia. And you've got to take those opportunities. And the thing was in that game is we did not capitalize on the position we were in the match. History repeated itself against Italy. 1-0 up. Again, what happened? Didn't take the opportunities, didn't kick on, didn't play, wasn't adventurous,
Hmm.
positive enough football. And that's an Italy team that didn't qualify for the next World Cup, and an Italy team that didn't get past the round of 16 in this show. It's not like it's a sparkling Italy team. You've got the France situation in the World Cup, the last one where we were in the ascendancy. Okay, missed penalty, these things can happen. You go out, right? But this one for me, I mean, this Spanish team is a good side, but we're talking about this Spanish team like it's the team of Iniesta, Xavi, Puyol, Torres. It's not. It's a good team. They've got some good players, but I don't think man for man they are a better team than England. I think they just got a better system and they play better football. And I tell you what, I've liked actually. I've been able to make this point a bit about this whole situation. We've had for years. It's the Premier League. They're too tired. They need a break. They're all tired, too tired in the summer. Right. Well, one, we've had a winter break. Two of the leggiest players were Bellingham and Kane, and they play in Spain and Germany. So can we keep saying that thing, or is it in the genetics of people that are born in England that you
And the
get tired?
Spanish players played exactly the same amount of matches.
Exactly, exactly. You can give Southgate the credit for getting to the final, but for me, like if you look at the runs we've had, my God, you and I would have got a few goals against Panama, World Cup 18. We beat, what was it, Colombia and Sweden. The Euros, it was Denmark and Ukraine. I mean, this tournament we've played the dog and duck, and
we
a
we
few.
won we won 2 games out of 7 inside 90 minutes at
Yeah,
this tournament.
yeah. And every time he's come up against big teams, as in top 10 teams, I think he's got a win rate of like 15, 20%, something against the big teams. He's just not good enough. So when you put all that together in the mountain pot, I said it before the final to anyone obviously that I was speaking to. My worry is he starts Kane, he flatters to deceive. Not well, then you're chasing the game too late again. And what happened? Exactly what we said. What does Palmer need to do to get a start, to get more minutes?
Yeah,
So I look at it and think with this crop of players, it's another example of missed opportunities. And in sport, you can't miss opportunities. Do you want to be a Jimmy White or a Tim Henman, or do you want to be a Greece in Euros '04, or you get my point, right? It's
yeah,
it's about taking the opportunities that come. And Gareth Southgate is too negative as a manager in the moments when you need to change it. And we could see it. We could all see it at the side of the pitch, epitomised by Walker throwing the ball back down the line.
oh,
It
that
goes back to
25
Pickford.
seconds was
Goes back
horrible.
to Pickford. He launches it out of play. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm just want to think about Aston Villa now.
No,
That's
no,
it.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, just close on it. I think, yeah, we massively relied on the old moments of magic, and we got a few of those moments of magic. But you can't keep going to the well and asking one of your players to do something and pull you out of the proverbial every time. And yeah, you come up against a team that have got some good, very good players, some players that have burst onto the scene in Spain, a good system, but he went and had players that came through that he had a good relationship with, that he should have built a system around, and then any player that comes in slots into that system. But he ultimately fell down at the lack of trust in some of the players. I mean, what was the point in taking the likes of Anthony Gordon, Adam Wharton,
I
Joe
agree.
Gomez, even Jared Bowen, even Cole Palmer? What was the point in taking them if you're not gonna play them? Like, and these tournaments are there for people to grab the chance by with both hands. You think of back in the day with Toto Schillaci, who just turned up and just burst onto the scene for Italy, ended up pushing out their top striker. Jeff Hurst for Jimmy Greaves in 1966.
Yeah,
Like, why couldn't have Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney have pushed Harry Kane out of the side and just, right, I'm the next cab on the rank? Why couldn't Cole Palmer have pushed Phil Foden out for those games? I mean, Bellingham has stunk the place out for most of the tournament.
yeah.
Why couldn't Eze have come into that number 10 position and just play them? Just what were they going to do any worse than any of those players? So yeah, as you say, it was time for him to go, and too many times in that tournament, it was turgid football sprinkled with a few moments of brilliance, and yeah, that was it. But in terms of
Maybe
sorry,
that's why Gerrard would be a good shout as manager. If
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
looking
yeah,
looking
yeah.
for moments of magic. Also, mate, just to finish on it, like, why are you experimenting with Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield in a tournament? For God's sake,
When you've got other midfielders there, other
yeah,
centre midfielders there that have played phenomenally well, like Adam Wharton, Kobe Mainu, Conor Gallagher, not so much, but you get my point. You've got three central midfielders there, and you're putting a right back in there
yeah,
instead.
yeah,
And
ridiculous.
the point in playing Trent was to play long balls over the top, in which Harry Kane, I don't think, made one single run behind the defence
No,
ever. So yeah, it was just completely mess. It's a complete mess, and I think more will come out of the woodwork about players falling out of each other, players not understanding what was going on with the tactics. More will come out, in terms of
yeah,
being just a waste of time than being there and stuff like that. So I'm sure that'll come out in the wash. But for
yeah. I was gonna say,
The Villa
well,
players, Ezri Konsa, Ollie Watkins, great that they came back unscathed, and they certainly did their reputations no harm coming back to the club.
that's what I was going to say, mate. I think that the boys that represented the Villa for England did great, mate. Did great, absolutely. Konzo had his one game, didn't he? A couple of sub appearances, I think, as well, was brilliant in that game. And Watkins, well, what a moment that will always be remembered forever, won't it? Really, from football fans.
Absolutely.
Great goal, and I mean, he nearly got the ball under control, didn't he, in the final? It was actually a difficult turn, not easy, but as soon as he came on, he was stretching the play, and doing something that Watkins was. Sorry, that obviously Kane wasn't doing before. I just hope no matter what happens, the manager plays the game as the game needs to be played in real time, rather than playing it on reputations. And there was so many games where another manager of another team, another country would have taken off Kane, taken off Bellingham earlier, taken off Foden earlier, and given the Whartons, the Ezes, the Gordons opportunity. Gordon was tearing defenses to shreds
Honestly, it was
last
embarrassing
season.
that he didn't play, and I'm not. I know I live in Newcastle, and obviously Newcastle fans were crying out for him. You're going to do that, but I just couldn't see the logic in him not playing. You looked at the way that Nico Williams and
Yeah.
Lamine Yamal terrorized defenses. A lot of the time you're playing against a 32, 33-year-old fullback.
Mm.
Anthony Gordon would have absolutely had a field day against some of the fullbacks that
Yeah.
we came up against in that tournament. And honestly, yeah, but it's not worth talking about now.
No.
He's moved on. We get another manager in. Ollie and Conte did themselves a lot of favours in that tournament. Ollie will go down in history for getting that goal, and hopefully he will be the next one to replace and be the main striker for England for the next few years. And while he's at Villa, will be fantastic. However, on to more important things. The full pre-season preparations get underway tomorrow, Wednesday night. Aston Villa against Walsall at the Bescott Stadium, the traditional pre-season opener. How excited are you for real football to be back, Kev?
Yeah. England or Warsaw away.
I
I
know. I'd take Walsall away all day.
Mate, I put a little tweet out saying I'd take England not winning another game if Villa could win the whole pre-season fixtures to get confidence for the season. Slightly tongue in cheek. Well, I'm really even more excited now that I booked 3 tickets today for me and my kids to go to it. So
Oh,
um,
fantastic,
I doubt they're
fantastic.
watching it 20 to 11, but yeah, I've got 3 tickets to go. So yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing. Be interesting to see of the players that are available. Yeah, maybe get a glimpse of Berentia, Ealing Junior. It'd be good to see what's Ross
I'm sure.
Barkley
I'm
back in the
sure they
shirt.
will. I wanted to ask you actually. Yeah, who do you think we will be likely to see?
Well, I think Cash will play, won't he? Because obviously, there'll be no Konza. Obviously, y- you know, defensively, Matson obviously won't be back as well from the Euros. So probably looking at Adina, Kashi. Not often there's a
Torres,
surprise. Yeah, probably power.
Gauchi in goal, maybe.
Hopefully, yeah, yeah. Wouldn't mind seeing what he's like. You haven't seen him, have
Yeah.
we?
No.
Yeah. See Aussie Joe. Um, Yeah, after Joe Bugner, second Aussie Joe. You probably will see Enzo midfield. Maybe Ealing Junior gets a
Morgan
shot.
Rogers back fit.
Yeah, wonder if we'll see Emi Buendia from. Wonder if we'll see
That
Emmy.
would be fantastic. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Maybe to see a few minutes of Emi Buendia. Yeah. Um.
Duran probably. Bailey.
Yeah.
Oh
Bailey.
no, not
Yeah. Yeah.
Duran. Duran's been at the Copa America. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Dur-
No.
Dur-
Duran.
yeah,
But yeah, certainly some of the new players. I think Inning Junior will probably see Berenich. I know it's only a short clip and the video, but I did tweet it out as well. But Ross Barkley, he's so good on like both footed, control the ball with the outside of the foot, control the ball with the inside of the foot, the soul. He just looks an absolute natural with the ball, And I know we used to say the same about Grealish, but there's certain players that just I don't know. It's like the ball is just an extension to their bodies, and Ross Barkley just has that. And I hope he's matched that with the mentality, like because he didn't quite have that kind of affinity at Villa when he was on loan. But if he's got that experience, if he's got that mentality matched with the obviously technical natural abilities that he's got, he will be some player. Because yeah, watching the clips of him on the ball, it's just a joy to watch him play football.
the first half of his spell the first time round, I honestly thought we were looked like we could have qualified for Champions League at one point. That season was sparkling. There was a bit, was it Grealish and Barkley were just taking the mick out of Arsenal, weren't they, at the Emirates? And in so many games early on, we just Liverpool at home, we just looked absolutely fantastic. He's changed his game somewhat, but he looks fit. He looks strong. He played a lot of games for Luton last season. He's 6'1". So we're all happy with that. He could be terrible. I've got a guy who works down the road. He's a builder, but he's 6'1", so we'll get him in the team. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The interesting question to me: who's going to play up top? You might see Rory Wilson.
Yeah, Cameron Archer is back, so maybe Cameron
Yeah,
Archer. But
probably
yeah,
Cam.
I mean, there'll definitely be a fair sprinkling of younger players in there. Probably ones that we haven't really heard of as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, there'll definitely be some of those players as well coming through. It'd be a mix of mix of youth and more experienced players. Carlos has been in training as well. So it'd be very much a mixed team. But yeah, it'd be nice, really nice to see some of those newer players, and it'll be fantastic to see Buendia, Rogers, who missed the end of last season. I don't think we'll see Jay Ramsey, although he was out on the grass. I think they had some video of him out on the grass, so maybe we might see 10, 15 minutes. But yeah, it'll be really good to see some of those players. And
Yep.
Lucas Paqueta in the chat. As for score prediction, didn't we only win like 1-0 or something last year? I remember Watkins scored,
I
but
think it was, wasn't it 4-0?
I can't remember. I know one of them was. I know.
One of
I
the
don't know if
games was
that was the
4-0.
year before, but yeah, I remember Watkins scored last year. But
Yeah.
I'm just intrigued to see some of the players and see, just the players getting a bit of a run out. It'd be really good. Will Philogene play tomorrow? Will he be signed in time to make his reappearance for Aston Villa?
I don't know. Yeah, I just waiting to see what happens with that one. Possibly, yeah. Might be a bit soon there, mightn't it? I mean, it is only Warsaw, so I'll probably just go carry on, get your kit on, son. He'll still be in his whole shorts. He'll have to just turn up at the side of the pitch and put a Villa top on quickly. What? Hey,
Yeah.
are we gonna see the kit?
Well, that was going to be my next question, because a few people in the chat have been saying, when does this new kit come in? I kind of thought they might do something tomorrow with regards to uh, them wearing the kit for starters, and then maybe some pre-order type stuff. Maybe
Mm,
maybe it'll be released on pre-order for people if they haven't got the stocks of it, and then maybe next week it'll start to be released. I don't know, but it seems a little bit strange at the moment with regards to the kit, and I'm not that fussed about it. I think it'll be out and it'll sell really well. I mean, and you can see why they've done the badge as they've done the badge, because it fits, the template fits on all the different colors. I've seen like Staniforth signed a new extension to agreement today, and she had like a pinky ready top that
yep.
had the badge. And then obviously we've seen like the luminous colors, the bright colors with it. So yeah, you can see why they've done that template of the badge. But I think everyone is buzzing for the for the just the kit release, and I think it's going to do crazy. The training gear and the kits are going to do crazy money with it being Adidas.
Yeah, whatever the price as well. People are just going to be lapping it up, aren't they? So yeah, um, yeah, it's exciting times, mate. Exciting times, and it's just a shame, isn't it, that we don't get to see, give Ollie a big cheer and Conza a big cheer, and obviously Onana won't be through in time, but it's the first little sprinkling of Aston Villa in our lives again, which is what we've been craving. How long's it been since the last game? The next thing as well, it was Palace, wasn't it?
May the 19th, Palace, which
Oh,
I have to say I didn't watch. I think I watched about 10 minutes of it. So
oh, it's
I was
terrible.
too busy singing in the concourse. But
It
yeah,
was terrible.
um, yeah, it's been a long time. It has been a long time, and we've got quite a packed preseason schedule, because we've got a game on Saturday. I don't want to pronounce the team because I don't want to get it wrong. Then we've got out to America. I think we've got 3 games out in America. Have we got Dortmund,
Yeah, we got
and we've
Dortmund.
got
Yeah.
Atletico Bilbao as well. So we've
Mm.
got we've got some strong teams that
Nico
we're playing
Williams
against.
going back to his old club.
Yeah, go back to his old club already.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, quite a packed preseason schedule. So it'd be interesting to see who comes in and who makes that tour. I did ask the question though to George, with Ollie Watkins and Conte only finishing, and Emmy Martinez only finishing their European and international exploits just this last week. How will they be ready for the start of the season?
Yeah, it's going to
It's only
be.
4 weeks, isn't it now? Four
They're
and a
going to
half
need a bit of
weeks.
time, aren't they? They're probably going to have 2-3 weeks off, aren't they? I mean, it's not much time
Hmm.
off, is it really? Um, yeah. Maybe they'll be used sparingly in the first few weeks of the season. Possibly, maybe you'll have to rely on your backups. Not ideal, but Who knows? I mean, it depends. I don't know how much break they need. How much, they'll obviously check their levels and their stats. Cons has been fairly well rested, hasn't he? McGinn's always rested because he's Scottish. Just had a couple of training games, didn't he? Tielemans didn't play loads. I can't say I'm actually too disappointed that Scotland went home early.
Those guys will be back, I think, for the American tour.
Mhm.
But I don't know if Ollie, Emmy, and Esri will be. I can't see them coming back until they're back, like the first week of August.
Yeah, and I think Emmy wanted to do the Olympics as well.
Yeah, well, that's being blocked now.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what we do, if anything, about that, or whether they get an additional break somewhere else throughout the season. But
Well, you need your squad, don't you? You need your
mm,
squad.
mhm, mhm. But yeah, brilliant that it's back, and yeah, hopefully we see a glimpse of the new kit, and that'll be out very soon as well. Anything else that you want to cover in the Villa world? I mean, I'm sure I'll be back for. Oh, that's what I was going to say. The Villa TV as well, doing a really good offer at the moment. With I think it's like £24.99 for for a full year's membership. They're covering all the preseason games. They're doing an official Aston Villa podcast, which they haven't asked me if they can do it or if we can appear on it, Kev, which
I,
I'm a little
I
bit
got I got
surprised
I
about.
got I got the email. To be fair, so
Ah,
yeah.
right, yeah,
Sorry,
typical,
got some news.
typical.
Got some news to break.
Yeah, but yeah, seems like a really good deal as well. I think it's 25 quid for the full season, and there's a good few things that you get with as part of it. And season ticket holders, I think, get Villa TV for free
Are they
this
showing all the
season, or
games on it?
as part of their package, and they're showing all the preseason games. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, so make sure you get into that. Everyone watching and listening. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I'll be back for a match reaction tomorrow night after the game. Just a quick one. I know we're not going to take the result very seriously, so you won't see any head losses from me over pre-season at all. But it'd just be great to see the players back out, and good to see some of the new signings and what Emery is looking to do with the players, and just to see those players, gradually building their fitness up and anticipation for the new season. So yeah, be great to see that, and who potentially comes in. Guys, make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. Help us on the road to 5K. We're over 4,300 now, so it'd be amazing to continue our growth and get up to 5K. Hopefully before the start of the season, that'd be amazing. We'll be back with more shows coming up, maybe one towards the end of the week. I know we've got another pre-season game on Saturday, so we might do another show on Friday, just rounding up the Walsall game and predicting others, and bringing in and reporting on any other Aston Villa news. More transfer talk shows as well, so plenty more to come on the channel. Kev, great to have you back, mate. Great to have you back.
Come
Thank you
on.
for joining. Thank you, everyone watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.